The following program, NORML Show Live, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate for the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate or encourage any illegal activity and advise all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws by visiting norml.org, NORML.org. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers of NORML Show Live are their own and do not necessarily reflect the philosophy and policies of NORML. Listener discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to think and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws presents NORML Show Live, Marijuana Nation. Now, here's your host, NORML's Outreach Coordinator, Radical Russ Belville.
Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. It is Tuesday, May 10th, 2011, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday. It's great to have you. We got all sorts of great stuff to get to, and of course, among those things is our engineer, Ganja John. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great.
I understand John was doing hard drugs last night, namely alcohol.
Yes, I was.
Having a good time, though.
Yeah, I had a great time.
All right. All of us having a good time. I came back from Austin, Texas, and we got more Austin, Texas stuff for you today. Clyde and Clem's Whiskey Business. We're going to do definitely not an Electric Tuesday. In fact, this is anti-Electric Tuesday. It's bluegrass music. It's as unelectric as you can get. Clyde and Clem's Whiskey Business. Couple songs from Austin, Texas. This band just knocked me out. I can't wait to share them with you. And unfortunately, normally we'd be going to Cannabis Carry in Grastoria. Grastoria, Oregon is back online. They've got their electricity, but unfortunately, Carry doesn't have any internet at the moment.
So I guess they're not really online.
So they're not online. They're on the grid.
Yeah, right.
They're on the grid, but they're not online. So unfortunately, I still believe it was Goonies. Yes, Goonies. Got to check them out. On today's show at 1:30, we're going to be speaking with Imiel Visser from NORML South Africa. He's going to give us an update on their Million Marijuana March and the latest stories that are going on down there in South Africa. They tell me they've got a lot of great activism happening. I can't wait to talk about that. Also, at the end of the show, a little radical rant. I'm going to give you a look at something called Life for Pot. One of our NORML interns from the Georgetown Law School has uncovered this website, and some of the stories in it are just heartbreaking. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But before all of that, we get to our hemp headlines at the beginning. We've got great news coming out of the state of Colorado on the DUID bill. We've got Maryland passing an affirmative defense bill for medical marijuana patients. And then focusing again on the activism going on in Texas, we've got video from NORML TV on Houston NORML and on Texas NORML in Austin, Texas. And we're going to follow that with a great little story out of Dallas, Fort Worth, and their 420 Truth Enforcement Vehicle, complete with photographs. You're going to love it. Stay tuned. It's NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation and the anchor of the NORML Network. Catch us at live.norml.org every weekday. We're back after this.
You're listening to NORML Show Live, the voice of the marijuana nation.
In today's busy world, we're inundated by advertising for all types of pharmaceuticals that come with a laundry list of potential side effects. Shouldn't you have better medical choices? Natural alternatives to pills pushed by Big Pharma? At Alternative Medical Choices, you could choose natural, safe, and effective alternative therapies that are right for your budget without nasty side effects. Cannabis, or marijuana, has been a legal medicine in the Pacific Northwest since 1998. Our doctors will help determine your qualifications for a medical marijuana recommendation in Oregon, no matter where you live. Our massage therapists will ease your aches and stress with soothing hemp seed oil or cannabis-infused massage salves. We also offer acupuncture, Reiki, and other alternative health therapies. Call Alternative Medical Choices in Portland, Oregon at 503-288-5579 or visit our website at www.altmedchoices.com. We specialize in out-of-state recommendations. That's www.altmedchoices.com or call 503-288-5579.
Georgia.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Hi, it's a Clyde, everybody.
This drug in front of me is what they call marijuana.
If we had a dime for every dime bag bought in America, marijuana would be legal by now. Donate to NORML at norml.org and support NORML Show Live.
I'm going to light.
Roll a big fatty. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, consumer cannabis. It's time for this week's NORML News with Cannabis Carry.
Cannabis Carry is awaiting a technical support person from Quest in Astoria, Oregon, so I get to bring you today's NORML News. The Colorado 5 nanogram per milliliter DUID bill, that per se DUID bill we talked about yesterday on the news, has died again. And also we've got new research backing higher thresholds for regular users. This from the Denver Post. A proposal at the state capitol to set a limit for how stoned is too stoned to drive died this evening in the Senate. In a crucial vote, lawmakers rejected a hard cap on the amount of THC, the psychoactive chemical in marijuana, drivers could have in their system, above which they would be presumed to be too high to drive. Instead, a divided Senate sided with medical marijuana advocates who urged more study of the proposal. Wow. Nice to have them on our side. Echoing the concerns of a number of lawmakers, Aurora Democratic Senator Morgan Carroll said she believes the research is inconclusive about how much THC definitively causes impairment, meaning a 5 nanogram limit might snare sober drivers while allowing stoned ones to go free. Quote, "If you're going to have a shortcut to presuming someone is impaired, let's make sure the science is established," end quote, Carroll said. Yeah, let's go with science, not a bad idea. I think I can be behind that. That's a good idea there. And this is great news too, because the science really is pretty inconclusive. I mean, we do have the science that shows from Huestis and some of these other researchers that have said 5 nanograms per milliliter is indicative of recent use and can show that you are possibly impaired. But my colleague Paul Armentano just alerted me this morning to a new study that differentiates between infrequent users and regular users. It concludes, quote, "A threshold of 2 to 3 nanograms per milliliter of THC is an indicator of recent drug use, that is, smoking within the previous 6 hours, as recommended by Huestis et al., appears to be valid only for occasional users." And here's the boldface. "Heavy users might exhibit measurable cannabinoid concentrations in blood even if the last cannabis use was more than 24 hours ago. Therefore, cannabinoid concentrations in heavy users' blood from a later elimination phase might not be distinguished from an acute use of an occasional user." End quote. This reaffirms in greater detail than the 2009 paper by Karshner et al. The residual phenomenon and how this could confound proper interpretation in DUI per se states. And this is something that was confirmed, and I think this one story, and congratulations to this journalist for doing it, the Westward's pot critic, William Breathes, who is a patient and is known to be a frequent user of cannabis, who went on a 16-hour fast from using cannabis, and it was, documented. And he tested at 13 nanograms per milliliter after that 16 hours of non-use of cannabis. Regular users of cannabis do develop a tolerance, and we don't eliminate THC at the same rates as someone who uses it only occasionally. Again, it just shows body chemistry alone is not a reliable indicator as to whether or not someone is too impaired to drive. Let's judge driving impairment by demonstration, by tests, by roadside sobriety, and not by body chemistry. More good news on this Tuesday. Maryland's governor signs bill improving medical marijuana in affirmative defense. Now, it's kind of a strange situation because Maryland is always one of those states that we have to put an asterisk next to when we discuss the, quote, medical marijuana states. Because Maryland doesn't protect patients from arrest for their use of cannabis. Instead, it provides an affirmative defense. Now, what an affirmative defense means is the following. Maryland police arrest everyone they find using cannabis, regardless of reason. Those people are cuffed, booked, fingerprinted, held, and, if they can afford it, bailed out. The patients among those people can then seek and hire an attorney, if they can afford it, to present their defense in court, but only if they're caught with an ounce or less. Now, these patients take time off work, if they work, to go to trial, where the defense is presented, and if the judge agrees that the use was medical, a fine of $100 is levied against the patient who retains the record of being arrested and convicted for pot. That's what they've got now in the state of Maryland. Well, today, Governor Martin O'Malley signed SB 308, which improves the medical marijuana affirmative defense in Maryland. This from the Marijuana Policy Project. Quote, the bill allows seriously ill patients to avoid prosecution when charged with marijuana possession and creates a commission to study medical marijuana laws and make recommendations on how Maryland can institute such a program. Under the new law, individuals diagnosed with debilitating medical conditions such as cancer or multiple sclerosis can avoid conviction if charged with the non-public use or possession of 1 ounce or less of marijuana. An existing sentence mitigation will remain part of the law, meaning patients who don't qualify for the full affirmative defense would still have the opportunity to present evidence of medical necessity and have their sentence reduced to a $100 fine. So now the affirmative defense process in Maryland is Maryland police arrest everyone they find using cannabis, regardless of reason. These people are cuffed and booked and fingerprinted and held and, if they can afford it, bailed out. These patients among the patients that are among those can then seek and hire an attorney, if they can afford it, to present their defense in court, only if caught with an ounce or less. And then these patients take time off work, if they work, to go to a trial where the defense is presented, and if the judge agrees the use was medical, if it was for cachexia, wasting pain, nausea, seizures, or spasms, and you've got a regular doctor you've been seeing a while who says so, and your condition doesn't respond to any other medications, then you're set free with no fine and no conviction. But if you don't meet all those conditions, like say your doctor recommends it for epilepsy, even though you have other anti-seizure meds that would work for you, but you don't want to take them because they have nasty side effects and they cost too much, well, then you can still have only a $100 fine levied against you and retain the record of being arrested for pot. Oh, and remember, all this is for patients caught with less than an ounce only, right? If you're caught with over an ounce, it's 1 year and a $1,000 misdemeanor. And if you're caught with any small marijuana seedling, even one seedling, it's 5 years and a $15,000 penalty. So I don't know where you're getting that 1 ounce of marijuana from or how long it's supposed to last you if you're a patient. Now, hate to say all sour grapes and say this is awful because it's not. Any progress in protecting patients is a good thing. But man, it just gets so frustrating reporting on this glacial rate in the change of politics when patients are suffering in real time, right now. Affirmative defenses, study committees, pilot programs like they're talking in Illinois. This is also 20th century, man. There are 16 medical marijuana programs in the 21st century, and the West Coast has had them for over a dozen years now. What remains to be studied? All right, we're going to go on. I'm going to skip the video and save that for hour 2 and just go on to my last story here that is about Dallas-Fort Worth, because it's such a cute thing, and it's more show and tell from Austin, from Texas in general, I should say. I wasn't in Dallas-Fort Worth. But we got pictures from David Sloan. He's the public information officer, they call him, for Dallas-Fort Worth NORML. And he brought to us the pictures of the Dallas-Fort Worth Truth Car. And what they did is they bought an old Ford Crown Victoria, one of those standard, cop car looking cars with a little handle light, what is that, spotlight on the side they call that?
Yeah.
And so they stripped it down, they repainted it with a 420 on it. Mm-hmm. They got the Truth Enforcement, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, Legislate, Educate, and Medicate. And then the NORML logo on it, right? So I'll give you some shots here. I've got some pictures here.
These are posted on the blog too.
It's on the blog right now. You can check that out at stash.norml.org. And let me get the web video. Is that the one I was going to use? Yeah. Here we go. So parked in front of this tattoo parlor, but I'll scroll it down here. There it is. The Truth Enforcement, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, CAR 420, Legislate, Educate, and Medicate. And I just thought, man, that is so cool.
Cop tires, cop suspension,
cop shocks. Yeah, fix the cigarette lighter.
Yeah.
But he was reporting, he reported back to us on the reaction from this. So he says, quote, "This weekend, besides the meeting, I drove it to the local Ford dealership, O'Reilly Auto Parts, and Walmart to pick up incidental parts and stuff for the meeting. Each time when I came out, I found a crowd around it snapping pics with their cell phones. The best reaction has been the cops. I've seen 4 so far. Each time, at first glance, I get the big good old boy wave. Then, anywhere from an eighth to a half second later, they whip that head back around at me with a what the fuck expression on their face." So I've got picture. He actually took a picture from his, I think his 4th floor law office window of these cops taking pictures. Let me bring this one up for you because it's also more hilarity. Here we go. There it is. There's the cop. I got to I got to scroll it down because he's in the parking lot there, and we'll scroll down here. And this is a good overhead shot of the 420 car, right? There's the you got the marijuana leaf on the hood and the 420 all on top. By the way, the light bar on the top that normally has the red and blue lights has green lights in it now. It's perfectly legal, because it's illegal to have the red and blues, right?
It's illegal to have the red and blues, but everything else on that car is legal. The spotlight, you can't have it on while you're driving,
right?
But otherwise, it's legal to have a cop car.
Yeah, so there he is. There's the cop with his little cell phone taking a picture of the 420 enforcement car. We love that. Great. And then this is from the parade that they just had, for the NORML Million Marijuana March, right? So here's the 420 enforcement card: Legislate, Educate, and Medicate, Truth Enforcement 420. You can see the green lights on the light bar. They got the green lights going. And then there's Truth Enforcement, the Dallas-Fort Worth NORML logo, and of course they're leading following the parade there of all the folks for the 420, or not 420, but the Million Marijuana March. And then finally, I got to get to this last photo here, and the story that goes with this is pretty funny. Again, David Sloan's the public information officer for Dallas-Fort Worth NORML. And he wrote back this is the email we got today, because he's been showing us progress on this, and Keith Stropp's been warning him, right? NORML founder Keith Stropp been saying, hey, you put this out there, you're going to get a little police attention, so be real careful to obey the law, and don't put any contraband in that car.
Yeah, there's never going to be any pot in that car.
Right. So sure enough, Papa NORML was right. This is what he just wrote to us today. Well, Keith Stropp's crystal ball seems to be in fine working order. I just got stopped in the 420 Truth car on Loop 820. I was driving under the speed limit, and a Fort Worth Police Department traffic unit working stationary radar on the shoulder started kicking up dirt and gravel coming onto the freeway before I even passed him, indicating to me they've been watching for that car. His whole demeanor and tone was very friendly as he approached, but he was still somewhat official when he asked me to turn the light bar on. I could have been a dick and asked him if he had a warrant, but I really wasn't getting the tood vibe from the guy at all. What the hey, the green lights are legal. Once they were on, he looked at them for a good 3 seconds doing the math. I think he was expecting red and blues to appear somewhere in that batch. Then he just kind of shook his head and chuckled. Then he noticed an old City of Fort Worth vehicle inventory sticker on the dash. 371. Was that a traffic unit? I said, no, it was a LoJack car, but I renumbered it to 420. He kind of chuckled again and said he noticed, and something to the effect of everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Then he asked if he could get some pictures. I told him sure and turned the light bar back on for him. He pulled out his phone and began snapping away. I got a shot of him getting a shot of me. And that's the picture that we've got, is the cop
awesome.
taking a picture of the 420 car. We exchanged cordial adieus and I was on my way. He wasn't menacing or harassing at all. I think they are just curious. I'm sure those pics got the Fort Worth Police Department most forwarded award for the afternoon shift. Now just 3 more shifts to go, LOL. So there it is, the Dallas-Fort Worth Truth Enforcement Vehicle, and it's just one of the creative ways our local NORML chapters are making a splash and getting some attention and getting people to ask questions and even getting the cops to laugh a little bit about it. Congratulations to all you, Larry Talley and Sean out there in Dallas-Fort Worth, for making that car possible.
Well, let's turn on the green light bar and have ourselves a break.
Yeah, I think it's time for a break. We will be right back after this with some Clyde and Clem's Whiskey Business, Austin.
It's 20 after the hour, and we have to take a short break, if you know what I mean. Please support these sponsors who support NORML Show Live.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would say to South Carolina. You know you're talking to that reefer man.
NORML Show Live reminds you to never consent to a search. If you're holding and you consent, in most states you will be arrested immediately and you will go to jail. If you don't consent to a search, police may try to intimidate you by threatening to bring in drug-sniffing dogs or try to fool you by saying things will go easier if you consent. Yeah, easier for them, sure. Stand your ground, refuse the search, and ask the officer if you're free to go. If they still detain you and eventually find your contraband, you'll be no more busted than if you had allowed the search. But by refusing the search, your attorney has a chance to win your acquittal before a judge. If you consent to the search, your attorney's hands are tied. You can find a list of NORML Legal Committee attorneys specializing in marijuana cases by visiting the Find a Lawyer link at norml.org.
As High Times Senior Cultivation Editor, I'm often called into the field and asked to sample or even identify exotic strains of marijuana in their natural habitat. Now, for the first time, I've compiled more than 120 of my favorite strains into this single field guide designed to fit into your pocket as you travel the world in search of your favorite plant. From a friend's closet grow room to the wilds of Northern California, this single guide covers all of today's best-known strains, plus heirlooms and throwbacks, including High Times quality photos and information on each variety's genetic heritage and growing characteristics, plus my personal notes on aroma, flavor, and potency. So this is Danny Danko, author of the official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains, wishing you good times and great ganja.
The official High Times Field Guide to Marijuana Strains is available at hightimes.com and finer bookstores.
It's time for your Daily Toker Tunes, the best in 420-friendly music from all genres that uplifts, entertains, and informs the public. Our PodSafe music is donated by freedom-loving musicians who support our goal of ending adult marijuana prohibition. Today we bring you tunes for Electric Tuesday, our segment featuring the best of modern electronic music in the genres of dance, new age, house, and electronica. Brought to you by Greg in Surrey, Sussex, England, and Cannabis Cure, UK. If you'd like to submit your song to be played on NORML Show Live, send it to us at stash@norml.org. Now, here's some great independent marijuana music for today's Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, well, I got a chance to chat with Cannabis Cure UK. He's still in Denver at the moment, and I believe he's going to do some recording at the John Doe Radio Studios. I'm not sure if he got the podcast for his show tonight uploaded, but we will find out soon enough. In the meantime, I'm going to take over the song duties for the day, just so that we can have something to listen to. And, of course, I came back from Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world, no doubt about it, and we are going to be doing the anti-Electric Tuesday today, the Acoustic Tuesday you could call it, with some great bluegrass by a band that actually bills itself as the worst bluegrass band in Texas, Clyde and Clem's Whiskey Business. Now, I got to give you the setup on these guys. First of all, they all look like they stepped out of Old Brother, Where Art Thou, right? They got the dress, the look, total hillbilly look, the big fat bushy beards, you know, and except for the bass player, who's a young Hispanic kid who played the stand-up bass left-handed, had it restringed left-handed, and then the harmonica player who looked like he was, stepped off of a Porter Wagoner album cover, right? He has this black cowboy shirt on with the red piping and a rose embroidery and the little rhinestones and everything, and a bandolier where he's got four harmonicas of different keys on one side and a pair of brass knuckles on the other. And then, of course, Clyde is he's the percussionist wearing doing the wash tub stuff and wearing the big, the washboard, they play. So total bluegrass thing. They got a fiddle, they got a mandolin, they got, total acoustic bluegrass. Really great players and just completely demented. Their first song that they played out of the gate there at Momo's at the Texas NORML benefit was Satan is Real. And it just got funnier from there on. And we're going to play 2 songs for you from Clyde and Clem's Whiskey Business. You can find out more about them at ClydeandClem.com. And the first song is a song written from the point of view of the killer Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. It's called People Suit. And the second song, if you listen closely, I think you'll recognize it. Hit it.
Well, it puts the lotion on his skin, or else it gets the hose again. People suit, save my skin for people suit. Gonna wear it all over town. Gonna dig 'em up and skin 'em down and wear my people suit around. People suit is looking mighty sharp. Well, poor old Eddie loved the dead, dug up their graves, chopped off their heads. He made 'em into clothes he could wear. Well, his works of art was awful dark, his thread and needle awful sharp. He crafted him an outfit debonair. It was a people suit, save my skin for people suit. Gonna wear it all over town. Gonna dig 'em up and skin 'em down and wear my people suit around. People suit is looking mighty sharp. Well, its designs were so divine, made people curtains, people blinds. I'm sure that Martha Stewart would be proud. But his needlework drove him berserk, and the whole thing rolled thought him a jerk. And we'll raise a glass and sing about here, people suit, save my skin for people suit. Gonna wear it all over town. Gonna dig 'em up and skin 'em down and wear my people suit around. People suit is looking mighty sharp. Skin, or else it gets the hose again. It puts the lotion on its skin, or else it gets the hose again. People suit is looking mighty sharp. People suit is looking mighty sharp. This next song is about genetic engineering. It is. It's a one. All right, let's just play hits from the ball. That's a good idea. Yeah. Come back and do this in a minute. Maybe. Here we go. Derp to derp. Purple dank. Purple dank. Well, pick it, pack it, fire it up. Come along and take a hit from the bomb. Put the blunt down just for a second. Don't get me wrong, it's not a new method. Inhale, exhale. Just got an ounce in the mail. Well, I like a nice one or a big fat cone of a double barrel bong. It takes stone, seal it, water inside, don't fill it. Smells like shit with a carpet till it goes out.
You want a copy of that song for your iPod? Check out the Daily Toker Tunes at the Stash blog by surfing to stash.normal.org and choosing Media, and then Toker Tunes from the main menu.
Starfish Designs, makers of the original Gandalf.
I'm Radical Russ, and when I want to relax, I always have my 17-inch long original Gandalf from Starfish Designs nearby. The hand-blown borosilicate glass is strong and easy to clean, and the design is sleek and sophisticated. Starfish Designs are available from Bend, Oregon at a glass retailer near you. For locations, call 541-788-GLASS. That's 541-788-4527.
Do you really want to legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join NORML today at NORML.org, and your donation will help us spread the growing truth about cannabis. Free speech ain't free, you know.
Free the ganja tree, it's the healing of the nation. Free the Cali weed, good for meditation. Free the pot smokers, they read not delight. Lighting up the chalice, they keep no malice. But the healing marijuana. Come on, say, free the marijuana.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after a word from these 420 friendly sponsors. Wait a minute. This is internet radio. There are no dials here. The effects of marijuana prohibition are felt by all Americans in every walk of life, regardless of race, creed, color, religion, social status, wealth, gender, sexual orientation, or even one's use or non-use of marijuana. As the marijuana smokers lobby, NORML hears the stories of these average Americans and brings them to the attention of our policymakers and our fellow citizens in this segment we call NORML Newsmakers.
Well, you know, the spread is a little bigger than that. It's just not your average Americans anymore. NORML is gaining popularity all throughout the world. We've got chapters in places like Norway and New Zealand, and today we go all the way down to South Africa to speak with Imiel Visser from NORML South Africa. Imiel, welcome to the show. Oh, right when we were ready to go on with him, the call dropped somehow. All right, let me see if I can get him back here on the Skype. Sorry about this problem. Imiel is from NORML South Africa, like we mentioned. Last time we had spoken to South Africa, we were dealing with the situation of Peter Miller, the Freeman, who was gone out on a walkabout. Apparently he's been found, and he's now safe. So we'll get some more updates on that, and we're trying to reach Imiel right now. Looks like he's on the line there. Imiel, can you hear me okay?
Hi, Ross. How are you doing?
Glad to have you here, Imiel. That was a little scary there for a second, but we're glad to have you. How is everything in South Africa today?
It's a cold, nipping evening here. We're about to hit winter, so it's quite cold here.
Certainly approaching winter in the Southern Hemisphere. So recently, this weekend, we had the Global Marijuana March, and I thought it would be interesting to speak to South Africa and find out what's going on as far as the march down there and any other activism that's happening that we should know about.
The march this weekend was interesting. The events, Cape Town came on board last minute, but they were also cancelled, but people still gathered. Mm-hmm. Durban happened, with about 40 people there. And Johannesburg, the Soweto was also a success. Chris J ran that with us. I didn't make Saturday, and Sunday unfortunately was cancelled in the last minute. But all in all, we did get the winners out there, and I think the next year, especially not with the momentum we're gaining, we'll definitely have something big, actually get a march, not just a gathering.
How much awareness is there in South Africa among the general population for the need for marijuana reform? I
would say the awareness that's there is still untapped. Mm-hmm. There's a few different aspects that's currently going. We've got Jeremy Acton in Cape Town running the Dagga Party. So we've got a IEC registered political party for Cape Town, and they're operating in the Langeberg area. And Jeremy Acton is also doing an appeal to the global cannabis culture to actually for funding, so he actually can go and do posters and get going because he's registered, and it's the first time South Africa's got a 100% fully marijuana-based, self-sustainable political party. So that's quite a small event on his way, gaining big momentum.
Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned the person who's with a Dacha party, we need to explain to our American listeners, Dacha is marijuana. It's so it's like saying the marijuana party.
Yeah, it's basically a marijuana party. As they go, Dacha is DAGGAPARTY.co.za. So it's dachaparty.co.za. And all the details are there for them, and they've got a nice. Jeremy's got a nice movement in terms of sustainability. And now, at NORML, what we've tried to do in the last few days is shifting more into a medical approach. And what we're asking for is doctors to come forward that's actually supporting compassionate doctors, actually to come and support medical marijuana. And if we can get maybe some doctors in these states that's already doing this and have friends here in South Africa, to please contact us and contact them and get us in touch, because there's no platform in South Africa where doctors can actually show their support for medical marijuana, and we're trying to establish that.
You know, if there are opportunities to do this via Skype or other technologies, I certainly could put you in touch with Dr. Mitch Earlywine and some of the other leading researchers out here in the United States. So we'll have to hook that up after the interview offline here. We can definitely do that for you.
Oh, that'd be great. I really appreciate that.
What are some of the...
But also there's been interesting movement in terms of on a political sense, because South Africa was one of the first countries in the world in, I think, 1911, around about there, that did a national prohibition of marijuana. So it's also, I think, America in a sense also 100 years celebrate. Well, I don't want to celebrate that, but it's 100 years anniversary of prohibition. So with Jeremy and the way he's going on the political side and the pressure he's been receiving, it's been interesting to see also the media that's coming out in support for marijuana. And this is now where the rapture is coming through. So there's a distinct tone in the media now these days for the media that's pro and the media that's against. And I think now with communication and Facebook and Twitter and Skype and all of that, it's much easier to connect all the people together and say, let's all stand together and fight this fight together, because the ultimate way to defeat is to divide and conquer, and the opposite of that is to unite and rule.
Exactly.
So, yes. So.
Well, I'm wondering, Imiel, what are the penalties that people face for possession of Dacha marijuana in South Africa?
It is criminalized. Your possession on a personal level, but I would say 5 to 10 grams, you might be able to get away with a fine or just slap on the wrist, depending on how smooth you can be with the cop. There are a lot of instances where cops would take a 200 rand bribe on top of your bank, your stash. So it's a different situation when you start looking at the more for the guys that's got a bit more than personal use on them. The cops are very harsh for that, very harsh. And also the term Dacha in South Africa is a big stigmatism around that. So the cops and people that are against it and don't know all the medical benefits or the sustainable side of marijuana, there's a disconnect between marijuana and Dacha, yet it's the same plant. And the local connotation is a lot more in the awareness of the people. So there's a lot of change needs to happen before people actually start accepting it. And I think the change that needs to happen from a scientific point of view, in the medical field, I think at the moment will be our easiest way to get some proper platform going, so that we can get professional advice and seek professional counselling for patients that actually do need it and don't have access to it. In South Africa, the access to get it is very, very different to what you guys experience up in the States.
Oh, yeah. I imagine. So we're speaking with Imiel Visser from NORML South Africa, and the website that was mentioned earlier, if you didn't get a chance to write it down, was dachaparty.co.za. Yes. That's DAGGAPARTY.co.za. And is there a website for NORML South Africa that we should be giving out?
Yes, so we've got norml.org.za.
All right, normal.org.za, and you'll get there to see what's going on with NORML South Africa. So we're talking also about, the medical benefits that are being recognized now in South Africa. There is no medical use law, though, in South Africa. There's no official recognition of this.
Not for medical marijuana on a commercial level, no. I know that there is a few studies going on, and there's been Dr. J.P. van Niekerk who published he's actually the manager for the Medical Journal for South Africa, and he published a very pro-marijuana case, stating that we've lost the war on drugs and we're wasting a lot of resources chasing marijuana in its current capacity. So there is support coming from all different angles in South Africa, and there's a lot of different spots heating up. So it's not just a one-man show, and that's the beauty of what's happening down in the south.
Mm-hmm. You know, I have to admit that folks listening in America, maybe all they know about South Africa is apartheid and Nelson Mandela. So what is
and the World Cup?
The World Cup, there you go. And so, for those of us that don't know the culture, you know, what is the cannabis culture like there? Is it open? Are people hidden? I mean, is there a lot of exposure to this? Is there a lot of knowledge about cannabis in the culture?
It's a very diverse culture, Russ. You've got 11 national languages in South Africa. Mm-hmm. That's not even including the indigenous languages. Wow. So we've got a vast array of cultures in South Africa. Each culture treats cannabis, marijuana, dacha, matikwani, so many different names. Each culture treats that in a different aspect. Uh-huh. The situation in South Africa therefore needs a very dynamic platform to comply for that. And when you look at like Cape Town, the way they smoke it there, the way they treat it, and the way they use it is a different way than the people that I surround myself with. So to say culture, there's so many different cultures. We are truly a rainbow nation, and it's very hard to answer that question.
Sure. Okay. But at the official level, on the governmental level, the criminal level, there's
yes.
not much tolerance for marijuana then.
No. Even getting to a point where you have the opportunity to speak. This is what I've been meeting a lot of people that's been fighting this fight a very long time, and even to get to the opportunity to speak, that in itself is quite deniable at the moment. Mm-hmm. We also picking up a few cases with police brutality as well. So there's a few things happening that's not an advantage because the force is picking up, but it's the wrong type of force. But yet on the nice side, the balance gets restored because there is a movement and there is activism and there is things happening. So the balance will always be there.
And what is the history in the country of industrial hemp? Here in America, of course, we have our history going back to the Constitution and the covered wagons and so forth. Is there a lot of knowledge of the industrial uses?
There is. I know there's a few licenses going around, but the licenses, again, we come back to the same problem where those licenses are issued to big corporations and they are exclusive licenses almost.
So there is industrial hemp production in South Africa. It's just not available to the common people.
Yes. Okay. If you want to decide to become a farmer or grower of hemp, to get that without a lot of money is not going to be easy. Mm-hmm. That's definitely not going to be easy. So the last license I know which was applied for was 2001, and I don't know if that actually was successful because I didn't see any follow-up articles for that. But the hemp, we've got an organization called hempnow.co.za, which we're pushing for as well, trying to get petitions going for hemp legalization in South Africa. But essentially that shouldn't be part of the argument. It's the same plant. Exactly. Essentially that it shouldn't be a separated argument.
Yes, I totally agree. And again, we're speaking with Imiel Visser from NORML South Africa. As we wind up this interview, we've got a question from our own Cannabob in the chat room wants to ask you, would legalizing marijuana in the United States have any impact on South Africa?
Hi, Cannabob. I would say yes, to a certain extent from experience and actually you guys going through that your first time, that would make our legislative procedure easier because there are certain hurdles that can be avoided, or there are certain systems that need to be set up that might aid us in getting some knowledge and sharing some knowledge and maybe setting up a support system between what you guys have experienced that site and all the small pitfalls. So yes, there's a lot of room for collaborating, I would say. between nations, because we're all fighting the same fight at the end of the day, so we should actually work together.
Mm-hmm. Another listener wants to know if you can give us any status updates, and he's asking about the party leader getting raided, and I don't know if he's referring to the Peter Charles Freeman, or I'm not sure which one he's speaking.
No, that was Jeremy. Jeremy Acton got raided, and he actually went back to the police station to go and do his testimonial, and when he arrived at the police station, they had another search warrant. So he escorted them back to the house. I think he handed over about 16 grams of marijuana, and the cops fully understand he's not there to waste their time and vice versa. So they booked in the amounts, and the 10th. What is the date today?
It's the 10th here.
It's the 10th today. Today he had to go into two court cases today. So someone's trying to silence him or try and threaten him through the police, but he's also been doing great work with the police, because the police are saying that they understand the fight that he's fighting, and that it's a waste of resources with the current legislative structure. It's a complete waste of resources going after normal smokers, which is part of their culture.
Yeah.
So on one front he's making way, but on another front there's force trying to intimidate on a political level.
Well, Imiel, it's amazing the work that you're doing down there in South Africa, and we all support you up here in the States. Give them the NORML South Africa website address again.
It's norml.org.za, and we've got on Facebook as well. If you just go to NORML South Africa, we're on the Facebook page.
All right.
We share a lot of medical information on this, so it's a great resource.
All right, let's band together, help everyone all across the planet here. We'll legalize one country at a time. Imiel Visser from NORML South Africa.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, America.
Yep, glad to have you on the show. And when we come back, a little radical ranting on life sentences for marijuana. Really? In America? Be back soon.
The NORML PAC, the political arm of NORML, makes contributions to members of Congress and select state legislators who support our policies and advance legislation towards that end. Elected officials need to see that those of us who support legalization are serious about changing policy, are about more than just getting high, and understand the importance of supporting politicians who support us. Please make a contribution today to the NORML PAC and send it to the NORML office in Washington, D.C., 1600 K Street Northwest, Suite 501, Washington, D.C., 20006. Or go to the NORML website and make a generous contribution. It is an investment in our future and will help assure we finally re-legalize the responsible use of marijuana in this country. Thank you.
Legalize it. Don't criticize.
This is Peter Tosh for NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Did you know that more than 400,000 Americans were arrested last year for the possession of marijuana? People are being sentenced to up to 40 years for even standing beside a joint. Well, I think it is definitely time for you to help doing something towards this. To find out what you can do, just write NORML, NORML,
1600 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 2006. That's 1600 K Street Northwest, Washington, D.C., 20006.
Help NORML to help protect your rights.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
It's America's shameful prohibition on the front page of NORML.org. Life sentences for marijuana. And you'll recall, and if you've listened to Normal Show Live for any length of time, you've heard our spot on John Walters, who was the drug czar under George W. Bush, who famously said that finding a nonviolent marijuana prisoner in jail or prison for marijuana is like finding a unicorn. It doesn't exist. Well, this is something we're going to talk about here, and it's brought to light by the recent case of the man Cornell Hood II, 35-year-old father of a young child who was sentenced in Louisiana on Thursday for life in prison for a cannabis possession case. And this was triggered by the state's 3 strikes and you're out mandatory minimum thing. Now, the South of the United States has more of this. This is where we find these long, insanely long prison sentences. And I wanted to give you a look at a place on the web called the Sentencing Project. You can find them at sentencingproject.org. And that's where you'll find this interactive map that shows you the United States of America. And you can just hover over any of the states there. And on the side, it will give you the information on the total people that are incarcerated in jail, the probation, parole, the black-white ratio, Hispanic-white ratio, number of juveniles, state corrections expenditures, felony disenfranchisement. So if we hover over here on where we can see the southern United States, we hover over a place like Florida, and we find that 18.8% of the African-American eligible voting population is disenfranchised in Florida because of felonies. We find in the state of Alabama, state corrections expenditures are $577 million every year, and the black-white ratio 3.5 to 1. We go over to Georgia, we can get more information. You can find this again at sentencingproject.org. You'll be able to find out their interactive map to get that prison data. It's just despicable when you find out all of this information in one place, and it just gets your blood boiling like I've got it now. And this continues on the normal front page with the identification of a new website called lifeforpot.com. And I must give credit and thanks for this to Kellen Rossiniello of the George Washington Law School. He's an intern for NORML, one of our legal interns in Washington, D.C. And I read from his text here. To many of us, the idea of anyone spending life in prison for a nonviolent marijuana offense is absolutely ludicrous. Yet, with the recent passage of a bill in the Oklahoma State Legislature making the manufacture of hash punishable by life in prison, it is clear that life sentences for nonviolent marijuana offenders do exist. In fact, a new website is drawing attention to this issue and has identified several people who are currently serving life sentences for nonviolent marijuana offenses. Lifeforpot.com focuses on finding individuals who have been sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for federal, nonviolent, marijuana-only offenses. Beth Curtis, the founder of the website, has identified 8 people, each with a unique background and story of how they came to spend the rest of their lives in prison for nonviolent marijuana offenses. Beth is very familiar with the subject. The first individual listed is John Knock, her brother. Since 2000, John has been serving 2 life sentences plus 20 years for his connection to a conspiracy to import multiple tons of marijuana and hashish from Pakistan and Lebanon into the United States and Canada, a sentence that Beth believes is the harshest ever for nonviolent marijuana crimes. When she talked to others about the severity of her brother's sentence, she realized that people believed that nonviolent marijuana offenders could not receive such draconian sentences. Despite having retired and living in Hawaii when law enforcement came knocking on John's door, he was extradited to Florida, a state that he'd never lived in or committed a crime in. Instead, John was drawn into a sting operation because of his contacts with the San Francisco area smuggler who had been indicted. However, John was never seen by law enforcement committing any of the crimes he was convicted of. He was never found in possession of any marijuana, and his prosecution rested only upon the testimony of informants. Criminal defense lawyers describe this as a dry case, and the full story is available at johnknock.com. That's Knock, like knocking on a door. johnknock.com and grandmasmind.com. Grandma's Mind. But how extraordinary is this sentence? Life for Pot lists some of the most famous drug kingpins and the sentences that they received. And it seems that John's sentence was given special treatment. For example, Freeway Ricky Ross, the preeminent crack dealer of the Los Angeles area during the 1980s and early 90s, was sentenced to life in 1996. His sentence was subsequently reduced to 20 years, and he was released in 2009. Manuel Felipe Salazar Espinosa, deemed by the DEA to be one of the world's most significant drug kingpins, making up to $14 million a week, was given 30 years for conspiracy to import cocaine into the United States and money laundering. It is clear that there are differences in the sentencing of these individuals. Life for Pot seeks to identify and make others aware of these discrepancies. Beth notes that the creation of mandatory minimum sentences at the federal level has resulted in the increase in power of the prosecutor to decide the sentence by choosing which charges to pursue. She specifically points out that the 11th Circuit, which encompasses Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, has given 6 of the 8 life sentences identified for nonviolent marijuana-only offenses. So where does this effort go from here? Although Beth has already received some feedback from politicians, attorneys, activists, and journalists, she hopes to start an organization focused on this issue soon. In order to do this, she explains that she will need advisors to help out, as well as a strong coalition. The roots of this coalition have already begun to take hold, with organizations like the November Coalition, Drug Policy Alliance, and Families Against Mandatory Minimums providing support, as well as media attention from a Columbia, Missouri NPR affiliate and High Times magazine. Beth would also like to broaden the focus by including those serving de facto life sentences for nonviolent marijuana-only offenses, including where older individuals are sentenced to long sentences. For example, a 50-year-old sentenced to 20 years. State sentences are another area where Beth would like to examine. Sentence reform efforts can be very successful at the state level. In order to do this, however, more resources must be available. A group petition for clemency is also in the works for those prisoners that have been identified as part of this effort. Quote, "The solution is political," Beth declared. "Legislative action is the best way to address the problem of egregious sentencing disparities. An organization focused on this issue would therefore be heavily focused on reaching legislators. So far, Life for Pot has sent out several cards and letters to federal congressmen and agencies." Beth also noted that advocacy efforts for the legalization of marijuana at the national level must be bolstered. In these times where some jurisdictions are locking up nonviolent marijuana offenders for life, it is good to hear that someone is bringing the inconsistency and irrationality of these practices to light. If you know someone that is currently serving a federal life sentence without parole for a nonviolent marijuana-only offense, or would be able to assist Beth in her efforts, please contact her at johnknock@johnknock.com. And this is on the front page of the NORML.org right now. You can go there and learn more about this. And of course, with that recent case of the man sentenced for life on his 4th marijuana conviction, because of this 3 strikes law, it just reminds us of how ridiculous, insane, tragic, cruel, unjust this marijuana prohibition is. And it's even worse than that. We're among the 15 countries that have the death penalty for marijuana. It's never been issued. It's never been used, but you can look it up on the NORML.org front page. Go to the select a state and pick federal. You'll find we have a federal death penalty for marijuana. It's a kingpin statute. If you're convicted of making more than, I think it's $25 million a year, or if you're caught with more than 60,000 kilograms or 60,000 plants, then you can get the death sentence for marijuana in the United States of America, just like you can in Singapore and Malaysia and Saudi Arabia and some of these other great beacons of democracy. This is not the land of the free that my grandfather fought World War II for. This is not the land of the free that my uncles fought in Vietnam for. And it's not the land of the free that your sons and brothers and husbands are fighting in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other places around the world for. This is not what America is all about. This country was founded by hemp farmers who are rolling in their graves at the notion that we are putting citizens in a cage for cultivating a plant, for treating themselves with a safe, effective medicine, or for just hanging out on a Friday night and smoking a doob on their porch. This is ridiculous. It's got to end now. And I'm beginning to run out of patience of half-stepping measures of decriminalization of low priorities and medical marijuana and affirmative defenses. It's time to just recognize the human right to use the plants that come out of the ground. How much more natural and obvious and inalienable could a right be than to use what God, nature, the creator, evolution, whatever you want to call it, brings forth from the very earth that we walk on? It's time to legalize marijuana. It's time to band together to do it. I don't care if you're for hemp, for medical, for legalization, what have you, sentencing disparities, whatever. It's time to band together as one and do the most honest and effective thing we can do and legalize marijuana. From that, all other reforms will flow. Thanks so much for joining us here for Hour 1 of Normal Show Live. For Cannabis Carry, Ganja John, and Kalika the Intern, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is Normal Show Live, the voice of the Marijuana Nation.
Take it out one more time. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it.